What is going on, everybody? It's the Reformation Keegan, and yesterday was Superman Day, so I thought I would give another analysis. Up next, we have Superman 78, not the metal curtain, that might come later, but we have the official Superman 78 story. This is book one. I have all six, and I just wanted to put this one up for display purposes. So you have Lex Luthor, you have Brainiac, Lois Lane, Superman, and obviously the Tin Skull of Brainiac, which I find really cool. A lot of people complain about the art in this series. I did not mind it. I actually liked it. It gave a nice Christopher Reeve aesthetic. I could understand though the critique on some of the shading on the art, and yeah, that's about it for the art. But I thought it was solid overall. So, like most of my analyses, I don't want to give you just a plot summary and a review of the events that have transpired, because if you're watching this, you've probably read the issues, or if not, you at least have an understanding of the backstory of it and you have an understanding of the conception of the characters involved. So, I want to look at this from a character analysis point of view, because this is based really on the Christopher Reeve version of Superman, and it goes back in time a bit, which is a theme in Superman. So I always have my notes with me as usual, because I take notes while I'm reading this, and it helps you retain memories. So if you are ever reading books and you get done reading it and you go, oh wait, I forgot that part and I really wanted to remember it, the best thing to do is write it. I still do it as a master's student. I will write sticky notes and keep them on the page of the book with the page number and all that, just because that's how I've trained myself to remember the information a lot better. But what I think Superman 78 does at its best is not just tell a cohesive story, which it does. I think Robert Venditti does a really good job at giving his audience a conception of the characters and what each character brings to the table. So if you have never read Superman, but you at least have a decent understanding of what he is and the people and who the people around him are, you'll understand Lex Luthor and what he brings to the table. And I know there's the debate Lex Luthor. I say Lex Luthor, and in this, Lex says O-R, Luthor, and Venditti actually bolds it too. So that's a little mini rhetorical thing that a lot of comic writers do, and even some people do in their prose when they're writing papers, is they will either bold or italicize the emphasis on a word. So for this, Robert Venditti puts the O-R as Luthor because that's the inflection that he wants on the name. So that's again a thing of personal preference, but it can also tell your audience where you stand, and it can also tell your audience what you believe the correct pronunciation is. Like me, I've always said Luthor because that's how it's pronounced too in Superman the Animated Series. So here, Robert Venditti, he puts the bold in, but in English, you work in MLA, and in MLA, you're not supposed to bold. So what you do is you italicize a word or a phrase that you want to add extra emphasis on, and that's what a lot of comic writers do. Is they will bold a word or a phrase that they really want to use, and they take advantage of that so the audience can have some retention on why that term or phrase was bolded, because there's an element of significance. So there is a specific reason why the letterers and the authors do that. So just wanted to get that out of the way too. But one of the things too that Superman 78 does super well is it portrays Lex Luthor and Brainiac really well. And don't get me wrong, Clark is a big part of this, and I think that the segments with Lara and Jor-El and Kandor inside a little bottle are excellent. Because you get to see the differences in Superman and Clark more specifically, where he has become more human than he thinks, because Clark is alien, he's Kryptonian. And inside Kandor, Jor-El is the leader of the Science Council, and he wants to essentially make Clark the heir to the throne. But Clark doesn't really want to, because Clark is so used to being in Smallville and used to human agriculture and sports, and that's what he has really become. That's become his own identity. So identity through a product of environment is the main theme that Venditti does here, and I think it works really well because Lara and Jor-El, they still respect Clark's decision to not want to take on the heir of the Science Council. But Jor-El is still a very scientific individual, and Clark, on the other hand, has become more basic at least from human standards. And I think that's the way Brainiac would probably portray it too, because Brainiac views human beings as still very primitive, which is, again, in society, a thing you can still look at and go, oh, maybe Brainiac's correct, because a lot of human beings in day-to-day lives have a very primitive nature to how they act, through what we would call barbarism, or through cheating, through life, in sense of, not just cheating on partners, but also by taking shortcuts, and also by believing our own hype. And that's a shot also at Lex Luthor, because Lex believes he's very advanced, and he believes that he is greater than every other human being, and he believes that he is more sophisticated than everyone else. And you see this here because Lex's character, not just in Superman 78, but in general, is extremely complex, yet when you really sit and rationalize the conception of the character, you can really understand it. Lex is not just a narcissist and not just a genius, but he's somebody who you can kind of understand from a point of view where you want to be very successful, and even if there are unhealthy ways to get there, a lot of people, due to their primitive nature, will still want to reach that same level of success. And Lex does that throughout this, because Brainiac makes Superman surrender. And Superman goes with Brainiac because Brainiac believes, through a perspective of morality, even though he is AI, he does have somewhat of an emotion, which is, again, a paradox, because AI is supposed to be emotionless. Brainiac believes that preservation is the way to go in terms of having not just humanity, but life itself keep going forward. So he believes that the preservation of life in a bottle is going to extend what you would call maybe the internal timeline of life itself and the cycle of life. So Brainiac thinks of morality through data and through that self-preservation, because really he wants to preserve the life, but he's more doing it for himself. So him and Lex, in a way, are more similar than they think, even though in this particular series they are opposed each other. And Lex wants to stop Brainiac because he wants to get Superman back, but he's not doing it for Lois, because Lois is grieving over losing Superman, and he's not doing it because he really cares about Superman's well-being. Instead, what he does is he attaches a device to Superman so he knows where he's going, and he tells Lois, kind of abducts her in a way, brings her in a warehouse of some sorts, and says, I know where Superman is, and I'm going to get him back. So, is Lex saving the day? Maybe to the public, but really Lex is saving his own ambitions, because he even explicitly states, if one person is going to take Superman down, it's going to be me. And that's very revealing, because Lex doesn't care about Superman's health. He just doesn't want anybody to be more successful than him. And Venditti portrays that perfectly in this. And Lex himself wants to have the level of success that not only Lionel has, but the level of success that Clark has. Because if anybody can match Lex in terms of power and success and fame, they're going to go down, and Lex will do anything humanly possible to take them down. So he doesn't want Brainiac to have that satisfaction of taking down Superman. So Lex tries his best to take down Superman, and ultimately he doesn't really succeed, but Superman himself finds a way to succeed, because him and Jor-El eventually work together to get him out of Kandor in that bottle. So I really like this story, because it's so grassroots in a way, and not even in terms of the upbringing of Smallville, but just grassroots in terms of not the origination, but the inflection throughout the word choice that Venditti uses, and throughout the mundane nature of the villainy that is perceived in the narrative. So I really did enjoy that. And I think that the relationship between Lara and Jor-El and Kal-El is really, really unique, because they are really happy that he had met the Kents back on Earth, and they try to come to an understanding, Lara and Jor-El, that is, to an understanding of why their Kryptonian son, who is still an alien at heart, but has adopted a lot of human characteristics, is wanting to kind of have a sense of individuality that maybe he had never had before. So Clark is trying to have individuality, even though on Earth he has it throughout his powers. He wants to find individuality throughout his own proverbial bloodline, where he is not just taking a mantle, but he is finding who Kal-El and Clark are. Are they two different people, or are they the same people with the same power, but they still seek independence from everyone and everything else, while still being there to subsequently help anybody that needs it? It's a really complex theory. It's a complex question, and it doesn't necessarily leave a lot of answers. But that's the best part, because I think one of the lures of writing in literature is you don't want all the answers. You want a little tidbit. You want a little hook, as they say in English, and that'll gravitate the reader to try to theorize and find answers. Because you want them finding answers. It's almost like detective work, and I really found Superman 78 to be like a detective work, where you can sit and rationalize and be like, okay, well, Brainiac wants the preservation of human life, but why? Is he doing it for his own good? Is he doing it for the good of the world? Or does he believe that, the whole world itself is just a big eternal consciousness of data? So that's another thing we can rationalize too, is maybe I'll just do a video on Brainiac and human consciousness throughout philosophical pessimism. Maybe I think that would be really intriguing, possibly to do, to see how Brainiac potentially views the world of Earth, and also just views all the galaxies in general, and views life. Because again, like I said earlier, he does view human beings as a very primitive species that has not reached any ounce of potential. So let me know if that would be of interest. But the thing is, it's like Brainiac's miniaturization process of Superman. It's really showing how you bottle things down and you just keep them in one spot. And even in a bottle, Brainiac thinks that things are evolving, but from our consciousness and our point of view, we view bottling things as static, where it just all stays in one spot and it doesn't change. But for Brainiac, it is ever changing. So the big question is Kal-El, maybe is he misunderstanding Brainiac's preservation? And that's not glorifying Brainiac in any reverential way. It's just stating Brainiac has a different method of bottling things, proverbially, than human beings do. And that's another thing that we can go throughout Brainiac's dilemma in his mind about what human consciousness means, because I still don't think he knows per se, but I think Brainiac likes to have certainties, but he also at the same time really likes to speculate, especially in this comic. So he has that weird juxtaposed paradoxical way of thinking, where he has certainties through data, but he also seeks more, which makes him a very compelling and a very, very, very volatile villain. And Brainiac is a major problem throughout all, because he has all knowledge. And when he gains even more knowledge on top of all the knowledge that he already has, what does that mean for every other place? Because not just Earth, but what other places could he possibly invade and try and take? And he looks at Clark as a scientific commodity, which is really intriguing. So let me know what you guys think, because I would love to go down the Brainiac rabbit hole a bit more. And I think there's a lot to be explored. And Superman 78 to me was just a tip of the iceberg of what Superman is, but also what his villain's motivations are. Because we have Lex through narcissism, we have Brainiac through self-motivation, and I think it makes for a really, really cool rogues gallery that is, I think, rather underappreciated by all DC fans and comic fans. But we're going to leave it at there. Let me know what you guys think. Please feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to do more Superman stories soon on top of other stories, and I love doing these analyses, and let me know what you think. So, I'm signing off.